This NASCAR 2024 awards discussion and season betting MVPs edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in and happy Monday to another edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Slowly but surely, Cody, building my voice back up to where it was. Thank God. That week last week was about the most horrendous week for a podcaster you could ever imagine. It's tough to not be able to talk when that's what you do for a living.
Yeah, you sounded pretty bad last week, Rod, but thankfully you're at least a little better. No, I'm just kidding. You sounded fine last week. You do sound even better now, though, so that's a good thing. And, yeah, happy to be back. Rye Cape checking in. Says happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, our friend. Rod, there is only 83 days until the Daytona 500. My math was a little off last week, but now it is officially 69 days until the Clash of the Coliseum.
Nice. But by the way, yeah, I mean, we were all a little off last week, so we'll just blame it on the NASCAR hangover, right? We didn't have it last week, so we had to do something. But don't tell people that don't like to be counted down that there's X amount of days, because I guess that's a divisive.
The people who get the people who get upset about that, like I think it was one of the DVC guys, either Freddie or Brett. One of them's like, if I see another NASCAR countdown, like, because you have to go back to work. Like, sorry, you get actual like months off at a time, unlike regular people. The people who complain about that stuff, I get. There's a grind to traveling every weekend and go, but you're also working in the sport that a lot of people would love to be working in, and you've got a pretty good job. Oh, and yeah, you're off for 2 or 3 months now when everybody else goes to work throughout the entire winter as well. So maybe don't fucking complain about it. But let us count down the days if we want to count down the days, Rod. We just love NASCAR.
And here's a little trick. This is a pro tip for those of you who get pissed off about anything in the digital world in which you are in. See this little thing? It's cracked. I don't care. But it goes,
Jeez, Rod.
scroll.
Get an iPhone.
You can keep scrolling. I'm not going to get a stinking iPhone. You guys never going to convert me, but you can continue to scroll. And you know how many seconds that takes out of your day? That's it. That's how many seconds it takes out of your day.
Not much.
Literally.
It's just, keep going. But
that's how I feel about people that don't like this show, right? Just keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. It takes that much time out of your day. You don't have to like scream about it. You don't have to yell about it. You just go on with your day. Like that's how.
Anyways, Rod, do you know how many starts the number 83 car made in Oldsmobile? Oh, just kidding.
Oldsmobile? Oh yeah. Well,
actually, fun fact for you: Toyota has the most starts in the number 83 car, and Oldsmobile is second on the list. So there you go.
Well, GM's about to join F1, so why don't it join?
Don't spoil the news section, Rod. We're getting to that because that has some potential implications on NASCAR.
It does. But I want to tell you first, before we get to any of that stuff, because we're going to definitely dive into all that. We're going to talk awards. We're going to talk about our MVPs and sort of just kind of put the 2024 season in a bow. But this week is Thanksgiving week. And in honor of Thanksgiving, we're running a massive merch sale over there in the store Thursday through Sunday this week. Everything. But more importantly, the Racing Gambling Podcast stuff is 25% off if you use the promo code Black Friday, all one word. That's right. 25% off of everything, including get yourself a brand new Racing Gambling Podcast hoodie. I 1000% love hoodies. I'm a hoodie person. I'm not wearing one right now because I feel like I wear them too much. And if you watch this on YouTube, you've seen all 12 of my hoodies and you're probably like, can you just get some new clothes? And I will. I'm going to get a new SGPN hoodie with that Black Friday sale because, Cody, as we both know, employees are can use those codes as well. So I'll be using mine to get myself a brand new hoodie.
I've probably reinvested a lot of the money I've made from SGPN back into SGPN merch. If we're going to be totally honest, Rod.
I'm not fond of actually putting money back into where it came from, but with the SGPN, they've got me, man. They sucker me in. JDK checking in saying, afternoon, fellas. What's up, JDK? Rye saying, Rod and Cody are the real MVPs.
Thanks,
we can stop the show right now, can't we?
All right, guys. Well, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Cody. Well, so yeah, we kind of teased it before the break. There's a little bit of news trickling in here and there. This silly season continues to get sillier as we go on.
Yeah, and actually sort of the biggest news for today, Rod, is Formula One news, which you're like, well, this is not the Formula One Gambling Podcast, which is going to be live right after this show, Rod. So to come back and stay tuned for some more racing action to bet on this weekend. But Formula One did announce today that they've reached an agreement in principle with GM, General Motors, of course, to bring GM/Cadillac in to the grid in 2026 as the 11th team. Now, you might be thinking, again, what does this have to do with NASCAR? But the fact that Cadillac and GM is turning that focus to Cadillac, making it their sort of, obviously they've already been racing Cadillacs in a lot of other series, especially sports car series for a long time, but transitioning F1 into, having the Cadillac brand there and maybe pushing that. As we know, Chevy doesn't make the Camaro anymore. They don't really make cars anymore. And so the question has sort of been, what's Chevy going to do in NASCAR, not having a Camaro or whatever else to sort of, show off of. Now, I believe they're still making the Corvette. I think,
that's the one that they're still doing.
And so there's been a lot of, do you do the Corvette? How do you can't really translate the Corvette body into a NASCAR body. So do you just put Corvette on there? Do you just run the Chevy logo and not really have it modeled after a car? I think all those things are possible. But the other thing is, do they switch from the Chevy brand to the Cadillac brand? Which, personally, Rod, I'm a big Cadillac fan. I think they're really nice. I think their cars are sweet looking. I think it would look good on a NASCAR to be shaped like a Cadillac is, right? I think that would look pretty cool. And there's some reports and some rumors that potentially as soon as 2026. Now, 2025, they're going to continue to run what they have now. That's already set. They're not going to change that. It takes time to develop, obviously, the new body and all of that stuff. But potentially 2026 on, we could see the rebranding from Chevy to Cadillac. Of course, going back through everything, Chevy has been the biggest and baddest manufacturer in the sport for a lot of its history, right? Especially in the modern era. To maybe shift away from Chevrolet into Cadillac would definitely be an interesting move. Of course, it's the same company at the top in GM, just different departments, as we know, and we see that throughout a lot of different things, right? Whether it's Budweiser switching to Busch or many other things where the same company sort of funnels things differently. But could be Cadillac in the future, which would be interesting and different to see on the cars for sure.
You know what I want to see? I want to see the El Camino. Let's switch to the El Camino body style. That, my friends, is
there is a NASCAR Mexico Series already, Rod.
All right, fine. An Impala then. I want an Impala. That's what I want.
They did run Impalas back in Jimmy Johnson won, I think, a ton of titles in the Impala. No surprise you would want the Impala to be back, Rod.
6'4" Impala. That's what I want too. JDK saying, is that do we think that's why Chevy made 0 body changes last year?
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
Because we don't even know yet, so I don't know that.
This is not. They haven't announced that that's going to be the case. It's just sort of speculation, and a lot of the rumors are that's probably the direction GM is leaning, which I think is a big thing. It's not so much like it used to be, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I don't think that people see a Chevy win a race now and just turn and go, on Monday, drive to the Chevy dealership and buy a Chevy like maybe they used to, Rod. World's a little different these days. But there's still something about the brand recognition and, I'm a Chevy fan, things like that. People drive Chevys because they've always been a Hendrick fan or whatever the case may be. Would be interesting to see the shift to Cadillac, and maybe that would help GM sell more Cadillacs. Who knows, right?
And let's be completely honest with you. The normal person that watches a NASCAR race that doesn't really know, they can't tell the difference between a Chevy, a Ford, or a Toyota on the track. Like when they look at the cars, they just all look like cars, right?
And there's not that much of a difference.
Exactly.
I mean, you can tell, right? The dark horse, and they all look. They have their distinct qualities, but in a general sense, they're all the same car, anyways. And I mean, we do have different manufacturers that are better at different places for different reasons, but in a general sense, it's still the same car.
Yeah. So, I mean, this will be interesting to watch just from a sheer branding standpoint. Again, it's not going to do much for the racing on the track because all those cars are going to stay about the same anyways. So, from a branding standpoint, to not have the bow tie on there, and then what are the conspiracy theorists gonna fall behind? Like, what are you gonna do then? I don't know what's going on.
And then it'll just change to the GM wrote the big check instead of Chevy.
These people, and get off your high horse. Anyways, if you wanted to buy a ticket for the Clash at Bowman Gray, you can't. Done things sold out already. Way in advance, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, which is not really surprising, right? Bowman Gray is a smaller venue, and people in that area, obviously that's very NASCAR heavy area, very rich in tradition, a lot like North Wilkesboro a couple of years ago, returning to a track that NASCAR hasn't raced on since I think the 50s was the last time NASCAR actually held a Cup Series race at Bowman Gray. So not really any big surprise that ticket was going to be in high demand, and it is sold out. So gonna have to use a game time or something like that to get tickets to that if you're looking for them.
Yeah, and honestly too, this is going to be one of those races that I'm going to have fun handicapping because it's brand new. Anytime we could do something, Cody, that we haven't done before, that's going to be fun.
I was looking at the calendar, Rod, and the other day I was sitting down trying to kind of plan out off-season shows, and we're going to do 3 shows a week from now until the season starts. And I was looking, and I'm like, we don't really have that many weeks until we're breaking down Clash picks. I mean, like I just said, 69 nice days until the Clash. That means, Rod, like 64, 63 days from now, we're going to be having picks for the Clash of the Coliseum. That's not that far away. So I'm pretty excited about that already.
And think about fast time flies during the holidays too, because next thing you know, it's already Thanksgiving. And then next thing you know, we'll be at Christmas, and then all of a sudden I'll be talking about Clash. So we're trucking right along in this instance. I'm so excited to be talking about the Clash here pretty soon. But then I'm kind of like, why don't we get to take 3 months and fly off to some exotic place, paid vacation?
Okay, the flying off paid vacation exotic place part I would like, but I don't want to take time off, Rod. I enjoy talking about NASCAR. One other story for today, Rod. McAnally Hilgeman Racing in the Truck Series today confirmed your boy Tyler Ankrum is to return with crew chief Mark Hillman. It's the same pairing returning to the 18 truck next season. Leuna will remain as his title sponsor. Of course, he'll be teammates now with Daniel Hemrick, who's taken over that 19 truck, as we talked about last week.
I'm excited only because I think there's a lot of good to be had this season for Tyler Ankrum, this coming season, not this last season that passed, which, by the way, is still good to build off of. But, we saw a lot out of him. We saw some improvement. We saw some disappointments. But I feel like now when you take guys like Eckes out of the sport and, you move around some of these guys that were the top dogs, he was always somewhere fighting in the mix with these guys. He didn't always finish there, but he was always
he made the round of 8, right? And then in the championship wasn't too far from making the Final Four. So, he had an overall solid season, and you definitely had your spots where you picked him, and he ended up running pretty well. Some disappointing stuff in there as well, but it'd be interesting to continue to follow his growth in the Truck Series.
Yes, sir. I'm going to enjoy that for very much so. All right. let's start talking about these awards. Let's start talking about all the stuff that we're here to talk about today. But before we do, and as we always do, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. We've had so much fun all season long with Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. There's NFL, which is, by the way, happening tonight. If you're nasty, the Harbaugh Bowl is happening tonight. If you're watching this on a Monday or listening on a Monday, if not, it already took place. Get ready for Thanksgiving football. There's college football, there's college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, Formula One, and more. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries. Going to use mine on the F1 race this coming up. It's Qatar, however you want to pronounce it. There's a million ways to do it. The right way is the right way in there. But if you want to use that, you can certainly use that. Looking at whatever Max Verstappen's number is, and I'm taking the higher than. He's the lower than, rather, actually, because he's already locked up the championship. He's already not really going to have much to race for this week other than pride. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of hungrier folks and folks that need Constructor Championship points get there. So take Max Verstappen lower than whatever his projected finishing position is, which is probably going to be up there around 2 or 3. So take the lower than. Sign up with our promo code in the meantime, Race SGPN. You're going to claim a special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code Race SGPN. All right, Cody. Well, I did tease this on the thumbnail out there, and I'm hoping that we get the clickers that come to click on this because I want the debate to rage on. I know
if you've fallen for Rod's clickbait, first of all, well, I don't apologize because welcome to the show, and we're glad you're here. Thanks for checking us out. All right, Rod, go ahead and ask your question.
I just want to know. I want to know because now for the 7th straight year in a row, not to bury the lead, Chase Elliott has been named the most popular driver in all of NASCAR. And so it begs the question. If Jimmy Johnson's a 7-time champion and he's the best driver in the entire world, does this make Chase Elliott the most popular driver of all time? Cody, can you take your bias out of it for a second and answer?
I'll take my bias out of it. No, he's absolutely not the most popular driver of all time, Rod. Fun fact for you, though. The last 34 NASCAR Cup Series seasons in a row, your last name had to either be Earnhardt or Elliott in order to win this award. Bill Elliott, of course, won it for a long time. He withdrew his name in 2001, rather. Dale Earnhardt won it that season. Dale Jr. won it every season until he retired. Now Chase Elliott has won it every season that he's been in the sport, and it doesn't look like that's probably going to change anytime soon. But I would say, it is sort of like most popular driver of all time is an interesting question because I don't think that it's Chase Elliott. He currently is, yes. I think that it's probably... See, I think this is a tough question because I think right now you could probably say Dale Earnhardt. But with a caveat in there, a lot of that popularity and love came after his death, right? It wasn't there prior to his death. Now, I think that some people love to hate him, and as far as polarizing, maybe he would take that award, but Bill Elliott, that is, regularly beat him every single year for the most popular driver prior to 2001. So I don't know that you could say he's the most popular driver ever. I think that Bill Elliott probably has the most solid case because he went through the biggest growth and biggest boom of NASCAR time and was the one who won the award every single year. And also, nowadays it's all, you vote online. It's really easy. You can do it on your phone, right? You can vote like 5 times or whatever. And so there's something to be said for the Chase Elliott fans that still do that and get their votes in. But back in the day, I think you had to like mail in your vote. Like people had to go to lengths to do it. And so to have a fan base that's willing to go do all of that, I think there's something to be said for that. So I would say that Chase's father, Bill, is probably the most popular driver of all time as far as when they were the driver, right? I think that now maybe it is Dale Sr. And man, Dale Jr., though, Dale Jr. potentially could give Bill a run for his money too, because obviously with the death of his father and sort of taking the sport over like he had, Jr. was extremely popular driver, and we still see that today. Flow Racing, Flow Sports crashed this weekend because people wanted to watch that race that Dale Jr. was in, and that popularity still reigns there. So I think it's between Bill Elliott and Dale Jr. as far as most popular of all time.
So back in the day, you had to take your proof of purchase and mail it in with a $1 self-addressed stamped envelope to whatever, so you can vote on that. Remember back in the day, you had to cut out your little. You don't remember because you don't have any of that going on. My brother checking in saying, "Nope, senior, junior, everyone else." And then you changed his mind, Cody. He said, "Good points, Cody. Hadn't thought of that. Go Elliott, senior, junior, and then everyone else." TK.
See, I still like the senior part of that. I think is more in the post him racing time. Like I think Dale Jr. was more popular during his time than Dale Sr. was. And probably a lot in credit to his father. And to TK's point here, I feel like Bill was so popular that it carries Chase to a degree with the older fans that can be bothered to vote on this. And yes, 100% agree. And people, people like to make the case against Chase Elliott. Well, he doesn't have much of a personality. He's pretty dry. You don't see him out there a lot doing much. Like, he doesn't want to be on the Netflix special, and why should he be the most popular driver? But then his fans go to the lengths, Rod, of, it's a lot easier now. You don't have to find a stamp. What is a stamp, right? How do you address an envelope? I don't even know what that is. But you just vote online. But still, they have to go and do that. And some people would make the argument, well, Kyle Larson's probably the actual most popular driver as far as he has the most fans, and he's all over the place racing all the time. People go out to see him. I think that's definitely a case, but the way the award is handed out, much like Joey Logano's a champion this year because he used the point system for how it is, right, is you have to vote, and Chase Elliott's fans still get out and vote for him. And I think a lot of that is credit to his dad. I'm a Chase Elliott fan, Rod, and that's because I was a big Bill Elliott fan when I was a kid. And so when Chase started racing, it was a natural transition. He obviously races for Hendrick. Post Jeff Gordon, he literally replaced Jeff Gordon in the 24 car. That helps as well, right? If you're newer to the sport, Jeff Gordon retired. Chase Elliott jumped into the 24 car the next year and was his replacement. So a lot of the Gordon fans carried over into Elliott as well. Of course, later on, they switched him to the 9 car and put Byron in the 24. But I think that helps. And Bill's popularity definitely helps Chase as well. And he continues to win the award because his fans are crazy about him.
And I think a lot of it too, when you talk about anything all time, when you're talking about the greatest of all time, when you're talking about anything of all time, you have to keep in mind that it's generational at best, right?
Except in basketball.
Well,
record.
Except in basketball, Jordan,
because there is no argument for Jordan.
No, I mean, it's all generational too, because if I were to have this conversation with older fans, like fans that were around when NASCAR first hung up its shingle, it wouldn't be Chase Elliott. It would be somebody else that they remember in their childhood that they loved, right? One of those old fast cars that were trying to run moonshine across the state lines. Like, that would be their favorite driver. And then of course you talk to somebody my grandfather's age, and maybe it is a Dale Earnhardt Sr., or, my uncle for sure would be a Dale Earnhardt Sr. guy. So like, I get it. And now even in this generation though, it's hard because with this generation, you get all these drivers and all these things that are shoved in front of your face. And, sometimes you're so loyal to a cause, and it is like voting on American Idol or some of these things where you just grab your phone and you're like, text something and it's the fun and the rush of it all of winning, like having your favorite driver winning, that you start campaigns. It's like, make Chase Elliott do it again. Because when you look back at the season, Cody, I don't even know that he was the most popular driver this season, let alone.
Well, he won the award.
Well, yes.
but yeah, I think, again, actual like one for one who has more fans, it's probably not Chase Elliott, I don't think. But it's the polarizing factor. Like, is he the most polarizing driver in NASCAR? No, he's probably not even in the top 10. Like, there's not, but I think that some people like that too. He's not flashy and talking shit like Denny Hamlin. Like, a lot of people don't like that, right? A lot of people don't like Denny Hamlin's attitude and Kyle Busch's attitude. That's why those drivers are hated so much. Chase Elliott doesn't even live in North Carolina. He flies his own plane personally himself. He is the pilot of his plane, flies to the races. Like, he just shows up, does his thing. And smiles and waves and he flies off until the next race. Like, and he's, he's got his fan appearances and all that stuff he does, but he's not overly outspoken. And I think that maybe some people do like that. So yeah, again, polarizing, no, but popular. Clearly he continues to win the award every single season he's been in the series. He won it in the Xfinity Series when he was in that series. And I don't think it's going to change probably anytime soon.
Let this be a lesson. If you want your driver to be the most popular driver, get out there and vote. You have no excuse if you didn't vote for your favorite driver to be your favorite driver. So
but the Kyle Busch contingency in our Discord was strong, Rod. We had guys reminding each other every day to go vote for Kyle Busch. It was pretty. Shout out to Switch and the guys, Rowdy. I know we're all voting for him, and I believe he was one of the top 5. Like, because NASCAR posted these are the 5 top vote getters or whatever in alphabetical order. We didn't know who was getting the most votes, but I believe Busch was on that top 5 list there at the end. So you guys definitely made your case for him to be close, I suppose.
Good job, Discord. Nick, one last time talking about Senior's legacy came after his death. You're seeing fewer and fewer 3 flags nowadays, and it is kind of funny though that the
Austin Dillon drives it.
Yeah, you don't want to besmirch it. Andrew saying, "Hello, boys. Missed your face." Well, we missed your avatar, Andrew. So
I missed you as well, Andrew.
Glad to see it. All right.
But yeah, back to your brother's point too. Chase and Junior are legacy guys with popular fathers. 100%. Like, neither of them would be where they were at because of, without their dads to get there. But, that being said, they both have earned their rides on merit alone. I mean, great race car drivers. Junior, a 2-time Xfinity champion. Chase is already a 1-time Cup Series champion. He won the Xfinity Series championship as well. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and look. I should know that as a fan, Rob. But what Dale Jr. has continued to do for the sport to this day, I mean, probably nobody does. Well, actually, not probably. Nobody does more for NASCAR than Dale Jr. does today. So he definitely has earned and continues to earn that popularity.
Yeah, just with his podcast alone and the amount of exposure he gives to the sport and the amount of ears that he reaches on a daily basis, it's staggering. And so yeah, without him, I mean, you'd still have a popular sport, but I don't know that you'd have that popular of a sport anymore. It'd still be kind of underground, and everybody that would be loving the sport would not necessarily know where to look for anybody else that loves the sport. So, All right. Other people won some awards as well, and we'll talk about that. But Cody, got to step away real quick and tell you about MyBookie. We're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years. You can check out their new and improved website, which, by the way, looks fantastic on mobile. So go on your phone. Don't be afraid and check that out. Plus props for every game. And more importantly, the live dealer casino. You even get new early cash out options, which, as we know, sometimes are more profitable than actually waiting for your bet to hit. Speaking of waiting for your bet to hit, you don't got to wait long for this one. Going to be using my MyBookie.ag bet today for the Los Angeles Superchargers. I'm going to take them plus 2.5. You're getting even money over this on MyBookie. Look, I know the Ravens are the Ravens, but the Chargers have something for it. I think one Harbaugh is greater than the other, and I think that one is wearing lightning bolts and used to coach the San Francisco 49ers. So I will take that one. So plus 2.5, the Los Angeles Superchargers over the Baltimore Wounded Ravens. You can head over to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN, for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Plus, get a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code RACE SGPN. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Now, you can track props in the Rhythm app as well. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. Trying to build a model to try to figure out which side of the Derrick Henry train I'm going to be on as far as rushing and receiving yards, because I don't know that the rushing yards are going to be there. I know Dick King Henry is going to probably run amok, but I want Rhythm to back me up on which side to be on. So I'm going to be building that as soon as I'm done here. You can too. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
I would like to issue an apology to our listeners. Rod meant to tell you to bet on the Ravens at plus or minus 2.5 rather, because John Harbaugh 2-0 against his younger brother Jim. He does have Derrick Henry. All my rhythm models, Rod, say to hammer the over. I don't know if you saw Saquon Barkley yesterday. Derrick Henry certainly saw Saquon Barkley yesterday, and he's going to remind everybody how good he is today. But yes, definitely taking the Ravens. I got him at -3, but that's okay. It doesn't matter because they're going to cover either way, and that's all that matters.
Saquon's still running. That dude is still busting through whatever offensive line right now. 220 some odd yards rushing.
He had a lot of fucking Nick Fortune checking in, Rod. He fell for your clickbait. Is Chase Elliott the most popular driver of all time? He says false. It's Kyle Larson. Back up a few minutes, Nick. We talked about how Kyle Larson is probably very popular currently all time. Okay, we're not definitely. I don't think he's in the conversation for that, not yet at least. Maybe win one award before we start talking about that. And then Andrew was wondering if they tell us who finished second or so on in the voting. I have not seen, but I know the last couple of days they did post the top 5 in alphabetical order, and it was Blaney, Bush, Elliott, Larson, and Truex. Truex getting the retiring driver bump, I believe. But that was the top 5 for as far as getting the most votes leading up to it. Probably a good chance that those were the 5 guys.
That's like when Max Verstappen is always in that most popular driver of the day poll. I mean, he's going to always be there. He's going to be like 2% of something is going to be there. He gets that bump, and then the actual most popular driver of the day is actually named. So
one more thing on most popular driver before we move on, Rod. Justin Allgaier won it for the Xfinity Series, so congratulations to him. And Rajah Caruth won it for the Truck Series. Something about having that Hendrick name tied to you, Rod, could make a big difference, certainly. So shout out to those 2 guys for winning most popular driver for their respective series as well.
Well, I was going to show them a little more love than just saying.
Oh, were you?
That's why I was coming back.
This is what happens when we don't pre-plan the show. I have no idea what's going on today. Rod's just shooting from the hip, and I'm just following along.
That's how the offseason pretty much rolls for us. But no, I mean, you look at for Justin Allgaier, it's no surprise. Obviously, you win the championship and you get but he's been the most popular driver already. So this just kind of adds to the legacy of that.
You get like some people who jump in every once in a while and will steal it from him, like a Chase Elliott did, or I think Ty Gibbs won it a couple of years ago. But yeah, Allgaier's won it previously. And then, I mean, he's a great driver. People love him. He's been around a long time. He races for Dale Jr. Not bad to be tied to him, right? So not too surprising to see Allgaier win that award.
Well, and it's funny because again, when you look at it, you got Chase Elliott, right? The Hendrick driver. You get Justin Allgaier, who's Dale Jr. was a Hendrick driver for a second, and now Rajah Caruth is driving with
Hendrick.com. Oh, weird. We connect all the dots here. And
where's the check?
I know a lot of people hate on Hendrick, but they do because they are so popular and they win a lot too, which is, that helps anybody's popularity.
And so then Rajah Caruth, then if we're going to scoot down to there, I get it from a standpoint of he definitely had a lot of good runs, but I mean, why would not a Heim? Why would not an Eckes?
But is Heim a likable guy, Rod? Like in a personality sense, or sure, he'll go out and kick everybody's butt, but I don't know. Like is there really much that's likable about him? I don't know.
Well, I guess from a standpoint, I've never actually truly considered whether or not people like Corey Heim, because we get so in our bubble, right? We get so in our bubble with the betting world that we see his name all the time, and so
it's Heim time. It's all about Heim, right? But I don't know that people really like clamor for him. And there's Toyota hate is real. Toyota, it's crazy, Rod, because Toyota is the most American car in NASCAR. Like, it's actually, Toyotas are, if you don't know, sorry to burst your bubble if this is an issue for you, but Toyotas are actually like made in America, and they're very American cars. Yes, Toyota's a Japanese company, but otherwise it's a lot made here and stuff. But that really does. People do not. Can you imagine, Rod? I don't know if you knew this. If you follow us on the socials, you would have known that Kyle Busch made his first 6 career starts in the 84 car, like I posted yesterday, for Hendrick Motorsports. Can you imagine if he'd have said, like, his popularity when he left Gibbs to go back to RCR and Chevrolet shot through the roof once again. Being in a Toyota, for some reason, people just, that's like the villain of the sport. And again, there's many layers as to maybe why that is, but it doesn't help drivers' popularity, I don't think, to be in Toyotas in a general sense.
Well, I mean, certainly not for Denny Hamlin, who you could probably say would be a most popular driver if he was in a Chevy, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know about that. He's definitely the biggest villain in the sport, though, I would say. I mean, I don't think that's really him or Bubba Wallace, also a Toyota driver, right? Like, those are probably, if you had a most hated driver award, those would be the two guys that would be at the top of the list. So I think that probably hurts Heim as far as being in the Truck Series too, is maybe the Toyota part does factor in some.
Okay, well, let's talk through some of the Rookie of the Year awards as we go down. No surprise, Carson Hocevar takes it home for the Cup Series. There was no competition.
Which really is surprising, Rod, if you go back to the beginning of the season.
Well, yeah.
You look at the field, right? And Josh Berry's coming in Kevin Harvick's number 4 Stewart Haas car. And then you got a couple of Spire guys. Like, who else was even eligible this year? Zane Smith, Josh Berry. I think it was those 3, right? Nobody else is jumping straight to mind. But yeah, I mean, that was a walk away. Like, if there had been odds, Berry'd have been minus 300 and the other guys would have been plus money big time at least, right? It wouldn't have even been close. And it wasn't close, Rod. Carson Hocevar kicked everybody's ass.
Yeah, so for the coming season, Carson Hocevar set a pretty high bar for him. And if we're talking betting for this, I think we already talked about it and said that there'll be a lot of top 10 considerations for Hocevar next year if the odds are right.
Shit, we hit a top 10 on him quite a few times this season. I mean, he really delivered some really, really good performances this year. And very deserving to be Rookie of the Year.
Indeed. In the Xfinity Series, which is a much tighter series as far as the Rookie of the Year was concerned, Jesse Love walks away with that one as well in the number 2 car. You guys, if you listen to enough Xfinity Series episodes, you know that I loved me some Love and was a continually top 5 contender over the course of the season and delivered on a lot of those top 5s.
Very, very excited for his second season in that car, Rod, because I think we're going to be talking a lot more about Love next year. He really proved that he sort of has the chops. And now that he's got his feet wet, he's already been to victory lane, right? Sheldon Creed couldn't do that in that 2 car. He's already got it done coming into a next season, keeping things relatively the same over there at RCR. It's going to be him and Hill again. That second year back, I think it's going to be a big time bump for Jesse Love. Of course, Rod, his biggest competition, SVG. He had 3 wins on the season. I believe it was 3 wins, and doesn't win the award. Of course, it's based more on where you finish in the final point standings, which Love was able to top him just a little bit. Of course, we know Love was a lot more consistent throughout the season, had a much better team, honestly, although AJ made the final 4, right, in the Kaulig equipment, but RCR definitely a little bit of a better team, even though the cars are prepared in the same place. But yeah, shout out to Jesse Love for taking down that award.
I'll be curious to see where his championship futures odds are set when the Xfinity odds come out, because that's something that's very intriguing. If they give us, Cody, anything outside of 10-1, like, because that seems like a right price, right? It's a Sky in his second year.
It's probably got to be bigger than 10-1 for me to want it. It's so interesting because, you think RCR and, like, are they a championship team? You could really make a strong case for Hill, but even we saw in the championship race, like, he really wasn't going to do it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but you kind of look, I would say the overall Xfinity Series field maybe down a little bit because you're losing the 2 JGR guys that are like the big, tough, like should have been Chandler Smith and Sheldon Creed, should have dominated the season. They didn't even make the final 4, but you're losing them. Cole Custer's gone. Now you've got some guys moving around. Riley Herbst is gone. Got some guys moving around. Sam Mayer, I think at SHR will be a threat, certainly. The rookies coming into JRM, as TK's pointing out, the 88 is going to run away with it for 2025. Connor Zilic, of course, he's going to be a tough one to beat. He could potentially be in the conversation for champion as well. But yeah, could set up nicely for Love, depending on, haven't seen Xfinity Series championship odds when they do come out. Of course, we'll talk about them, Rod, as we always do here. But yeah, I'll be definitely interested to see where his number lies, and I'm sure that you'll take it no matter what it is.
100,000%. As maybe even the next driver on this list, the Craftsman Truck Series Rookie of the Year, the number 38 truck, Lane Riggs.
2025 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion, Lane Riggs. Let's fucking go, Rod.
Yeah, listen, this is no surprise either because we documented how scary it was at first to even place any kind of bet on Lane Riggs. It was so touch and go at the beginning of the year. And then by the end of it, that 38 team remembered, oh, by the way, we've been a championship contender team for a very long time with Zane Smith behind the wheel. We might as well turn that and make Lane Riggs a good driver as well. They did, Cody, and I don't see this slowing down at all next year.
No, it's going to pick up a lot. You're losing guys like Christian Eckes, although I think Hemrick is going to be a solid guy in that truck, as we talked about. You're losing like a Taylor Gray. But yeah, very excited for Riggs. We documented it well throughout the season, right? Very rough start. As you mentioned, though, they figured it out at the end of the year. They won the first 2 playoff races in the playoffs, even though they weren't a playoff truck. And he performed at a high level to finish out the season. I think they're going to turn that around. That truck has been continuously in the championship battle with Zane Smith, with Todd Gilliland throughout the past seasons. So I'm even more excited for him than I am for Jesse Love for next season, just because the Truck Series, obviously the competition is even less. And I would say he's in one of the more elite trucks in the field. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for Lane Riggs next year. And yeah, I'm glad that he's returning to that truck and going to run it back, because I think it's going to be a strong season for the 38 truck next year.
Yeah, I'm with you that 100% too, because I feel like this is we saw what was building, and next year is just going to be another continuation of it. So yeah, give me the 38 all day, whatever his championship number is. I hope the books don't squash that to the point where we can't really bet it, but almost feel like it's almost if they give it to you again, like
I think we'll get a decent number. Yeah, maybe. Potentially. I mean, Heim is going to be a heavy favorite. He's going to be impossible to bet. But then it sort of opens up after that. Majeski will likely be fairly low as the returning champion. But I think Riggs will slide in somewhere after that, and we'll get a decent number. I think Hemrick will probably have a respectable number. Xfinity Series champion, moving into a truck that was really maybe even the better truck than Heim had last season. If you look at Eckes' season and what he was able to accomplish. So I think we'll have a good shot. Also, TK checking in. Riggs having shoulder surgery after that celebration injury, right? Hope he'll be 100%. A lot of guys have had surgery over the last week or two. I think Denny Hamlin just has like a open yearly appointment for surgery after the season. But you see that in a lot of athletes, right? As soon as their season's done, you get that stuff fixed that's been minor or bothering you. I think Riggs already had an issue with the shoulder. I don't think it was just from the celebration, but he should be perfectly fine by the time next season rolls around. And as we know with this playoff format, even if he's not 100% at the beginning of the year, like if he is later on, that's probably really all that matters anyways.
Yep. Get knees scooped out, shoulders readjusted, backs realigned, like all that little nagging stuff that gets her. Yes. All right, Cody, as we start to wind this episode down, I typed in NASCAR awards into Microsoft Bing. Whatever. Oh, wow. I'm an old damn.
You don't have an iPhone and you use Bing. Okay.
I just
probably shouldn't have admitted those things to the listeners, Rod. But
I don't care. I don't.
Well, okay, Grandpa. Let's get you back to your room now.
I used the World Wide Web to get onto the internet, and I typed in NASCAR awards and the internets. And look, it gave me these generated using AI things. Right?
Oh yes. Oh, that's always a good place to look for news, Rod.
Well, it's fantastic because it gives me 6-fingered veterans that are wearing uniforms that have nothing to do with any nation that I've ever seen in my life. Thank you, Facebook, for that. But it gave me some interesting talking points that I want to just two. I want to touch on maybe 2 of these before we bow out for the rest of the day, because I feel like that'll take enough time. It says race of the year. Now, again, I don't know. I don't know if this was named somewhere, but race of the year, the Advent Health 400 at Kansas. Does that hold up? Do we think that is the race of the year?
I mean, closest finish in NASCAR history. That puts you pretty near the top, right? I would say that race definitely is one of them that should be in consideration because it
Homestead,
was
I feel like should have been
a really good race. Homestead, I think, is another. There was a lot. Like, that's the thing, Rod, is you look at, like, Jeff Gluck did a poll, how good was the season or whatever. A bunch of people voted no, like, because they're sour about Logano winning. I get it. It wasn't a Chevy or a Hendrick car that won the race, right? So those people who voted for most popular driver voted no on the poll as well. But like we had a lot of really good races. Go back to Atlanta in the spring. That entire race was 3 wide action, and we're like, holy shit, what's going on? Then you get the photo finish at the end. I believe, was that the closest finish in NASCAR history until Kansas happened a couple of weeks later, right? The Advent Health race that you just mentioned. We had, was it Sam Mayer and Ryan Sieg at Texas, I want to say, where that was an extremely close finish, and Sieg almost got him there. Those are, as far as like the finishes being good and then the rest of the race being solid as well. Those all quickly come to mind. And then there were other races that were great throughout the season. The super speedways pretty much always deliver on good races and at least good finishes. A lot of people get bored during the race, but that's going to happen. But you have the Bristol tire debacle. I think that was a great race because everybody was so unprepared for it. And it was a true, like, we threw them out to the wolves and nobody, like, you had to adjust on the fly, which was great. It's something you could probably never replicate because how could you go in and make something so unpredictable like that? I just think it has to happen naturally as it did there. But yeah, I would say the Kansas race. And Kansas has just delivered over the past couple of years with really, really good racing throughout the day, and especially near the end. The Larson-Hamlin battle from a couple of years ago, I was at that one. That was extremely exciting. And the one there in the spring was a really good race as well.
Yeah, and I think the Gluck poll kind of said the same thing, too, about that race. That was one of the higher rated, was this the best race, up there with Atlanta as well. So, okay, that's fun. I agree with you. I think actually Homestead might take it for me because that one had so much going on, and the racing there was so fantastic.
And there was so much on the line, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that could be the difference between who ends up being the champion, right? Ryan Blaney's trying to defend. He's got that shot at the end. Reddick makes that crazy move that you probably don't get unless you win that and you go to the championship. He, pulls through and gets it done. When it wasn't looking good for him, like heading into Martinsville, the position he would have been, he probably wouldn't have made it. A lot on the line at that point in time. That makes for a really good race as well.
I agree. Okay, one more of these, and then we'll name our favorite betting MVPs, the person that we think pulled us through the most over the course of the season. This one says, top underdog performance of the season, Shane Van Gisbergen at Chicago. I'm going to assume that we're talking about the Xfinity race, not the Cup race, because
he was the favorite in that race, so that wouldn't.
See, this is what I'm saying. Like the top underdog performance. There's no way. This is why.
What year is this from, Rod? Check your Bing. Does it say 2023? Because Chicago 2023 was absolutely the underdog performance, right?
It says AOL. I don't.
I don't know what that is, Rod.
Netscape? Why is it saying Netscape on this? No, Shane Van Gisbergen was never an underdog anywhere on these road courses. Last year, maybe. This year, no.
You could say Alex Bowman at Chicago was probably one of the top underdog wins, at least of the season. As far as like an underdog, I was trying to think if there was any like really big Raja Caruth in Las Vegas, Rod. That's my top underdog performance of the year, 80-1. It's a hell of an underdog for me. That I think is probably going to be the one in my book. Might be a little skewed on why I like that, but I was trying to think of like other situations where we had kind of the little guy pull off a big win like that, and Caruth at Vegas probably is the number one if you're going between all three series. Alex Bowman at Chicago is probably the next biggest. Like, I don't remember what his number was if you're looking for a true underdog, but that was definitely a big upset that a lot of people didn't see coming for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know who or what or how you could consider Shane Van Gisbergen an underdog at any.
That's got to be. Well, and if that's the thing with those AI generated things at times is
this is
it's
the
just
finger on a hand.
When it's pulling all sorts of information from different places, and so it might see, SVG wins as a big underdog at Chicago. Well, that was in 2023, so it might be pulling that in. But like TK saying, he was the Xfinity favorite to the point it wasn't worth betting. Is his top 5 or top 3, and then he was. I don't remember if he was the favorite in the Cup Series or he was one of the favorites certainly, and ended up I don't think even finishing the race. So
no, he finished 40th in the race.
So that's how it goes. But
all right, Cody, is there one driver above all others that you would name as your betting MVP this year?
Yeah, so I did sort of give this one a little bit of thought, and I was trying to think. Obviously, like the Raja Caruth hit was a big one at 80-1, but we didn't really get many other shots to hit on places. Christian Eckes is probably the guy I bet the most for top threes, top fives that just kept hitting time and time again. We had a really good stretch of Alex Bowman top tens, especially early in the season. We sort of picked back up on that late, hit a couple more, but early in the season, before some other big media places launched onto it too, and the odds got chopped down, Alex Bowman top 10 was just weekly, great thing that continued to happen. So I would say those are probably like Eckes, especially in the Truck Series, was, man, it was just seemed like we bet him top 3, top 5, where you'd bet that number band, right? Was it 10-19 or whatever, and where you get him and Heim in there, and one of them would win, and so that felt like an Eckes win, even when it wasn't, because he was part of that bet, right?
Indeed. Yeah. And that's kind of where it was. Nick, take a shot. Yeah. That's kind of where it was, where that 10-19 band was always going to give you some kind of winner. But I will go with the Xfinity Rookie of the Year. Actually, that's my guy, Jesse Love. I hammered that guy so much over the course of the season for top fives, for group bets, for, all, and just, he continued to deliver week in and week out for me. It was one of those guys where I almost wanted to stop saying Jesse Love, because I'm sure people would be like, come on, Rod, you say him every single week, and for good reason, because he was in the top 10 18 times. He was 7 times a top 5 driver, and then he picked up those wins. He was a pole sitter. Yeah, I mean, his average finish 12th place, but there was a lot of mixed up weeks of badness in the middle of the season. But week after week, it was just Jesse Love, Jesse Love, Jesse Love. And it just continued to hit for us. So all season long, I was happy with that 2 car. And he's pretty much my MVP this season across all 3 series.
Yeah. And something to take note of, if you didn't listen to Xfinity and Truck Series picks last year, well, we just named Xfinity and Truck Series guys as those series are a lot easier to bet on, in my opinion, than the Cup Series, where things are a little more watered down. Back to biggest upsets, though. Your brother bringing up Harrison Burton to Daytona. Does the super speedway aspect of it make it moot? I wouldn't say moot, especially in the biggest race, like the Super Bowl of the series, right? Winning the Daytona 500. We've had some longer shot winners lately with Harrison now, Ricky Stenhouse, Michael McDowell, even the Trevor Baines back in the day. And we've seen Derek Copes of the world going even farther back, win that race. But that is a big one. And TK bringing up Briscoe as well at Darlington, Austin Cindric at Gateway. Now that I've got more time to think about it, right? That's probably one of the better underdog performances. You could argue the Austin Dillon at Richmond. A lot of other circumstances went into that, but let's not forget he was going to win that race just on speed alone before the late caution and having to wreck people to get there. So those are other good, as I sort of thought about it a little more, underdog performances from Cup Series guys this season.
I think that is a great place to put a bow in this episode and send everybody on their way to think back to your 2024 season. Who were your MVPs? Put them in the Discord.
Yeah, drop us, who was your favorite driver to bet on this season? Drop it in the Discord, comment on the YouTube video here, after it's posted and you're watching later, whatever the case is, tag us on Twitter, Facebook, anything, wherever you can get a hold of us. But who would you say was your favorite driver to bet on this season? Just because every time you bet this guy, you hit it, or even the opposite, like Brandon Jones. How many times did you bet on Brandon Jones and it didn't work out, right? Like, he's the guy who comes to mind for me. Don't worry, we're going to be heavy on Brandon Jones and JGR equipment next year, Rod. But we want to know who your MVPs and maybe the opposite of the MVP least valuable player was for your betting season. So let us know. And
Indeed. All right. I want to try to get some people drunk. My brother brought to my attention that I say indeed quite a bit. So I realize that that's one of my crutch words that I need to eliminate for the next season. So
indeed, Rod.
Indeed.
TK, by the way, saying his comment was about why SVG didn't finish the Chicago race was Briscoe plus rain. Good. Yes. Good call. And thank you for racking my brain on Briscoe winning as well.
Yes, sir. All right, Cody, let's venture off into the sunset and we'll get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast, which, by the way, will air right after this.
Yeah, we'll be back in a few minutes talking about F1. Going to be in Qatar, however you want to say it. There's a lot of different ways. Rod will figure it. I'm sure Rod will have a whole pronunciation guide for us after this race or after this show. So join us back real shortly. We're going to be live again on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube page. Otherwise, of course, you can listen to that in your feeds as well. Gives you something to bet on for racing. Had a nice, interesting weekend of Vegas last week, but did hit the George Russell 8-1 podium, so that was good. Then I believe the next 2 days, Rod, we're going to be back with championship head-to-head matchups. There's a ton of them out there, so we're going to be able to do that over 2 days. So Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll be back with head-to-head matchups for the season-long matchups for next season. So join us for that. And in the meantime, Rod, follow me over on the X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. Follow the show as well at NASCAR Gambling. Get that countdown every day. Try to drop some fun facts in there. That's been pretty fun. Cool paint schemes. Also on Facebook as well, trying to grow our following over there. So appreciate everybody who has liked us over there. Make sure you do so. And see you again here in a few for F1, Rob.
Yes, sir. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, where I'm giving out first touchdown picks for tonight's game, and, of course, all weekend long. And then there's a little extra special link on there. I covered esports over the last week, and I nailed myself an outright winner for the Overwatch Championship Series. Congrats to Team Falcons for beating the Crazy Raccoon team out there to claim the championship. I may just have more of that with Call of Duty coming out soon, so check that out. All right, love you, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow or in a couple of minutes if you're here for the F1 Gambling Podcast. So until then, let's go racing and let it ride.
Come on, lost. Another piece of